goes against everything that you've been taught your whole life. Everything you've been taught your whole life. You've been taught that you think with your mind. But in the Quran, it talks about what the mind does. Think about some of the things the Quran says about the mind. Jesus said, let us forget the body. He said, let us forget the flesh and go with mind. And go with mind. So therefore, he is identifying that the mind is a vehicle that we could use to transcend boundaries, that we could use to transcend time and space. So when the Prophet Muhammad, he talked about going from Mecca to Jerusalem and back to Mecca in one night, the night's journey. How did he travel? He said he traveled on an animal called Barak, and this animal in one stride, he moves as far as his eyes could see at the speed of thought. At the speed of thought, he was traveling with the mind. You understand what I'm saying? What else did he say about the mind? He said, these tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind. So he's telling us that there is a workshop in the mind. And he's saying where we build up thought. He said where things are made of thought and where we build up character. Now he's telling us what we're supposed to be doing in the workshop, but that's not what you have to do because your mind is yours. You can change it when you want to.
Islam. The Sheik Maurice Pennington Bey, Paradigm Shifting the podcast. Today, I got my beloved brother Mauryell Smith here, and I got the sister Sunshine Monie here, and we're gonna be talking about some of those things that constitute Moorish science in a way, numerology, astrology. And, man, boys, what's up? Islam, y'all good?
Be here, yes, sir.
Islam. All right, I'm gonna start off. They say ladies first. Islam, ladies first. So, Sunshine Monie, tell us a little bit about you.
Sunshine Monie. I'm an energy awareness coach. My interest is the application of the connection of the arts and the sciences. So, aligning the mathematics with astronomy, astrology, psychology, physiology, all things above within. And I hope people do that in my sessions, in my classes, and in my daily mathematics. I also make affirmation music, and I'm an author. I homeschool. I'm a mother of 2 boys. I homeschool my kids, and do a lot of different things. But you guys can find me everywhere. Sunshine Mauryell, Sunshine Monieel.
Islam. Hold up. You say you're an author. So what you write? Tell us about your books.
I like to write fiction. So I have a children's book. That's a rhyming book called Show and Tell. And essentially what that book is about is each student goes to the front of the classroom and says a little bit about what their culture is, or their ethnicity, or country they're from, and some facts about it. And I think it's about 10 different ones. And the other book that I have is a horror book. So I get into the different. I have a lot of gems in the book, but it's a horror book.
Islam. Okay, we're gonna come back to that. we're gonna try to dig them gems out. We're gonna come back to that. But I want to let the brother, man, this brother right here, y'all, let me tell y'all something. This young Mo right here, I was shocked when you told me how young he was. You know what I mean? I mean, for real, I was shocked, because I'm shocked when I think about how young our prophet was when he founded the Moorish Science Temple of America. And so that's, I give honors to you. I give honors to you for thinking along the lines that you think at such a young age. So tell the people about yourself.
Yes, all right. Give praise to Allah, honors to His Prophet. I want to give honors to my leadership, Brother Keith Davis, Spring Grand Sheik. My name is Brother Mauryell Smith. I am chairman of the Denver Moorish Science Temple of America out here in Denver, Colorado, Mission 29. I work in the school system and different nonprofits out here. So this past school year, I've taught African American history with Moorish lens. to high school students at alternative school, as well as I've helped to innovate and pioneer a new program called the Mindfulness Room. So I have a mindfulness room in the school all day where students can come in and meditate, do different breathing exercises, yoga. We have tea, and then we just work through the emotions that feeling as well. Also have a background in Tai Chi and chess. I'm an avid chess player. Me and Moby, we got to throw another game, man. We got to have another. Yes, so that's pretty much the background that I have. I also went to journalism as well, so I'm a journalist by trade. But yeah, I'm just here to serve the people, serve my people, put forth, great and creative ideas amongst the great minds that we already have. So it's a pleasure to be on this podcast with both of you all.
Islam, all praise due to Allah. Hey man, that's dope. That's what I'm talking about. That's super dope. Like it's crazy because the content creators get all of the, people know them, but the workers are not really known. You know what I mean? Like ones they don't know what Mauryell Smith will do. They don't know what Sunshine Monie will do. They don't know. So that's why we got this paradigm shift in the podcast. Let's try to shift some paradigms. We want y'all to pay attention to the people who actually out here doing the things that they're talking about. The people who are utilizing the knowledge that they're sharing with you. It's not just we talking. No, we do this on a daily basis. Y'all know who I am. I'm Sheik Maurice Pennington Bey. Grand Sheik Missionary Post number 9 are also on Bay Legacy Contract and LLC. And I'm a father. You understand me? I'm an uncle, which means that I'm a triple father. You understand me? But I'm also the master student. And that goes without question. You understand me? To me, there is nothing more important than humbling yourself to be receptive and to learn. The universe is always teaching us because the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America say that a multitude of lessons we must learn. Here, that's why we here. Right? A multitude of lessons, So this particular topic, right? Divine Cipher. I sat down, and y'all know I use AI to generate the titles, the descriptions, but I don't just take what they give me. They give me my AI has been trained. Ever since I've been home, I've been constantly training it. So it gives me various titles. And I look at them and, I choose the one. I chose this one, the Divine Cipher, because I have an issue with a lot of what's being taught to our people, especially when it's supposed to be coming from more scientists. Islam. So the Prophet Noble Ali teaches us that Allah is the Father of the universe. In the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America, there's a chapter and it says that our origin is divine. Therefore, we did not come from a place on the planet. We did not just sprout up like a tree. Islam, we come from Allah. It says that the body and the souls of men are finite things and they will change. But man himself is not the body nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. And to me, this is not being taught, not nearly enough to those people who rely upon us to teach them. You know what I mean? They rely upon us to teach them. We are their teachers. We're supposed to teach them. So I chose this Divine Cipher because we're going to bring individuals together who understand that our origin is divine and that we are part of the Creator. All right? Supreme mathematics. Hey, I know you went to Sunday school. Did you go to Sunday school today, sis? Tell the truth. Did you go to Sunday school?
No, I did not.
You didn't go. Okay, we're gonna make sure we get you in Sunday school. All right. Make sure you don't miss no more Sunday school. It's an instruction in the Holy Quran, in chapter number 13. It says, "Your wisdom is the wisdom of God. Why seek ye wisdom in the halls of men?"
Yes, sir.
Right. Yes, what number is wisdom, sis?
2.
Number 2. Your wisdom is the wisdom of the gods. Why seek ye wisdom in the halls of men? Wow, why do we seek wisdom in the halls of men? Like, according to mathematics is the language of the gods, right? Islam. Right. So why do we seek wisdom in the halls of men? Why do we go to places like the Moorish scientific work? Why do we enter into ciphers with the nations of gods and earth? Why would we go and sit down and study Bible with the African Hebrew Israelites? Like, what's the point?
Um, so how I communicate it is the mind is a powerful tool, and it also it's like it's where you get the knowledge. It's the midpoint between, the thought cloud, however you want to think about it, the knowledge, the light into yourself. You know what I'm saying? You got the Fibonacci up here, crown chakra, bring it down to your third eye. And then this is when you start to compute the messages and if you're going to listen to them, not listen to them, whatever, what have you. And it's just when you structure, when you get to the third sphere, when you get to three, creation, expression, you come into limitations and restrictions in a sense of law and order. And in order for us to grasp things and concepts, we have to have that sense of limitation and restriction that language brings. And so, you know, um, there are certain languages that are preferred to speak to convey certain messages, right? Certain information we pass forth, we're not going to say it in layman's terms. I'm not going to break it down for you. You're going to have to build your knowledge up well enough to be able to gauge in this conversation, or you shouldn't be in this conversation.
Yes,
you know and so that's where that comes from. People choose the languages they want to speak based upon what they're trying to unlock in themselves, whether they know it or not. And that's all, energy. But like I said, in order to bring it into creation, into the space and time we live in right now, you have to, bring some limitation and restriction to language, to numbers, to concepts, whether I want to look at it like astrology or chakras or psychology or chemistry. No matter however way I want to label it, the language is still the same. And that's why right when the fair says Sabek, sphere 8 is the sphere that we always get stuck on, because we get stuck on the language that we use. Because I use religion language over your science language, I'm right and you're wrong. Or
It's
because I
wrong.
use this religion language over your religion language, I'm right, you're wrong.
It's you know what? That's dope that you bring that up. That's dope that you bring that up. Ron Nelson, he did point that out. And when you look at the pulp Netaru or the tree of life, right? When you look at the diagram, okay, so you got the 11 spears, the 10 spears on the tree, and then Amin. All right, spear 0. But you also have the chakras. Okay. Now there are netters that exist within every netter and within every Sephiroth, which is Ra and Set. We all have spirit energy and we all have an ego. All right. But when you look at how the chakra energy travels, and it's supposed to make a cipher throughout the body. It's supposed to be constantly moving, constantly feeding, constantly energizing whatever it is we are trying to emit as people. All right. As me as a person, whatever I'm trying to communicate, be it bodily, be it mental, be it spiritual, be it sensual, whatever I'm trying to communicate to you, this energy is supposed to be constantly traveling throughout the course of my chakras and providing energy so that I can do that. But what happens with us is the chakra energy cannot get beyond our gluttony, our desire to feed ourselves, to stand in our desire to feed ourselves and our sexual desires, and then in the passage of waste. All right, which is the lower 3 chakras. This is not getting to our heart. It's not getting to our throat chakra. It's not reaching our third eye. And it's definitely not reaching our crown. So we are actually being crippled by propaganda and those things that are attracting our attention away from what really deserves our attention, which is Allah, which is in us. You understand me? So when Ryan Neff would talk about Sebek, because Sebek is Sebek is the 8th spirit on the Asar tree of life. That's the 8th spirit. He's saying we don't even reach our own imagination, which is the 7th spirit. That's crazy. Because as people, as thinking things, we should always constantly be imagining, right? like you don't have a vision, you don't want something, like you don't desire, something, you don't see yourself somewhere and then want to actually see yourself get there. Like, that's crazy to me. But to some people, it's not crazy. It's just the state of their being. That's sad. That's sad. That's sad. So this we spoke before we started about the metal and Ron Neff and what he did for Asiatics in America and worldwide to be able to learn more about themselves. So honestly, understood the elder for that. So but the original question, you answered the question, for yourself. But the original question was, why do we seek for wisdom in the halls of meaning?
Well, our lessons talk about how that, wisdom, we are to communicate it to the ignorant for their instruction and communicate it to the wise for our own improvement. I truly believe that we weren't meant to experience Allah alone. Because Allah is all. We learn from one another. We feed off of one another, because what we're made of is attached to everything else. No man lives unto himself. For every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. And when you touch a living thing, you send a thrill to the outer bounds of life. That's all of that is commingled within us with everything we say, everything we do. So when we have this type of cipher and build right now, what's going on is what you see is a lot being put into use, right? When two or more come in my name, I'm there. So, it ain't no strange happenings. Law governs all events.
No strange happenings. Law governs all events. Law governs all events. That Ronald Neff wrote another book called The 11 Laws of Mayat. And the 11 Laws of Mayat is still, it's still about those 11 netters on the pulp nettle root of the Asarian tree. We're talking about the tree of Asar, right? Because one thing about our ancestors, there are a multitude of pulp nettle roots. And even in the Kabbalistic tradition, what we are seeing is another pulp nettle root, another tree of life. All right, it's the same thing. And that's something that the Prophet Noble Ali taught us to be able to recognize. He said, all the people worship Allah the one, but all the people see him not the same. You see what I'm saying? And so that's where we talk about what attributes of Allah do you bear witness to? Because we talking the knowledge of self. Whatever attributes of Allah you bear witness to is how much of yourself you bear witness to, because Allah and man are one. All right. So in the 11 laws of Mayat, because Mayat means divine law. In the 11 laws of Mayat, it's in prison, it's because it's an exercise. So we used to go through the fast, and we used to go through the whole ritual. It's a ritual book. And we used to go through the whole ritual. And I personally experienced some good things, practicing that. And then I come home and I turn on YouTube and I see a whole host of people on YouTube that claim to be teaching our people the truth about themselves. But they teaching our people some garbage. They got our people out here calling on the names of entities that they have no idea what the intention of these entities is. They have no idea
at all.
The chief Sheik Pray told me this, and I looked at his eyes and understood how serious he was when he said, call Allah by his name. Call Allah by his name. We are Moorish Americans. We refer to him, the great God, as Allah. Call Allah by his name. Because if you were to open your door, get a bullhorn, and scream down the block, "Hey, John, come here." Do you know how many people might show up at your doorstep? So when you start screaming, "Hey, God, come here," you know how many people have given themselves the title or the name God? And you praying to these people? And I turn on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and I see these individuals on there faking with this energy. And I be saying to myself, man, y'all cold faking. And y'all playing with this stuff. Do you understand karma is real? That what goes around comes around? Hey, sis, you got a thing you do every day, right? You do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
Today's mathematics. Why do you do it?
You said, what is it?
No. I said, why do you do it?
Why do I do it? I do it because it's something that works for me and how I compartmentalize how my days go. Like the astronomical report is how I started it. I used to do that every day. And I used to talk about where the planets were and the different energy it came off of it. And when I started to get into numerology a little bit more with the dates and the life path numbers, I started seeing the connection between where the planets were and what the numbers were. And so I started connecting all of those dots with okay, we're on this day of the week. Today is Sunday. Today is ruled by, Tippereth. Tippereth is ruled by the sun. That's Leo energy. You know, we get into the moon being in the sixth house. Six, we're in the month of six. So I talk about all of those different kind of connections, and I do that on a daily basis. And what keeps me doing it is I've seen how much it helps people who compartmentalize their days in that way. I don't think it's any different than someone giving someone psychological assistance, because a lot of the psychology theories are based on chakras, the hierarchy of needs, the lifespan development theories. They're all based on chakras and the Neverus. If you look at them, and even when you look at the color frequencies, then you get into physics. So it's all connected.
Smithfield.
Yes, sir.
Why do you lecture and teach these kids the way you do? What makes you do that?
My goal is to always get them to inspire them to action, get them to dream and think outside of the contents of their mind that they've been given, living in, for lack of a better word, this matrix that we're in, right? Our kids are being taught that there's something that they're not. And our prophet said in order to uplift our people, we got to teach them to be themselves.
That's right.
So the way that I teach is for them to really learn more about themselves and search within themselves and pull out their higher self. And beautifully said what our sister just got through saying. Really, what we're talking about is how a person having an internal system to be able to base how they choose what thoughts, actions, and what to say throughout the day. People need structure. As chaotic as the idea of what we think freedom is being sold to us. True freedom is order, responsibility, checks and balances, and all of that starts within self.
That's right.
And all of that mirrors the cosmos.
So
being in order in the midst of chaos is the natural order.
We today in Sunday school we began the chapter of misery.
Yeah.
All right. And in this chapter it teaches, we learn that misery is the prerogative of our nature, meaning that it's something that we choose. All right. It says that it is the character of our being. It's a persona. So now in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Prophet Noble Ali has taught us that we have a workshop in our mind where things are made of thought and where we build up character. So we can change our mind when we want to, because the mind is ours. It is ours. We are not our minds. Our mind is ours. We can change it whenever we want to. In psychology, they call that neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the process by which we become what we think. All right. This thing is it sticks to us. Basketball players have brains of basketball players. Chess players have chess player brains. More scientists have more scientist brains. All right. So now here it is, me. I can be a game banger over this entire span of a decade plus years, and then become a more scientist because I changed the way I think. All right. So we go into the workshop of our mind, but a persona is something that's constituted, is made of many parts, various parts, a multitude of experiences. It wasn't one thing that we saw, one thing that we read, or one thing that we heard, or one trauma that we dealt with that created our persona. So when we go in to dismantle misery, then it's an onion. We peeling back multiple layers. It's not just, I got to get rid of this one thing. You understand what I'm saying? We have to literally go in and strategically be careful with steady hands and perform a surgery and cut parts away. We got to cut parts away. All right. Now, in order for us to do this, we have to know our way around. So when we start looking at the cosmos, this is something that is consistent. If there is nothing consistent in the universe, the galaxy, the cosmos, it is consistent. The sun, the planets, and the stars have a relationship that has not changed in 13.8 billion years. The relationship has remained the same. Everybody do exactly what they're supposed to do, because if one joker decides to do something crazy, ain't no telling what could happen. You understand me? And what we doing here as Asiatic people in dealing with this Negro problem is having a multitude of jokers that refuse to do what they supposed to do. So we have a cosmic or a galactic crisis going on. You understand me? Like real talk. Okay, so we need to, this is why, more to say, well, Sheik Maurice Pennington Bey, the Prophet Noble Ali didn't put this in the Holy Quran. Why are you talking about this? Shut up. The Prophet Noble Ali said that in every hall of learning we sit. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to direct the attention of the people to the truth. Okay, if the Prophet Noble Ali said that 7 spirits and the universal Allah breathed it and 7 spirits stood before his face and one of them is planet, then we're going to take a look at the planets. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Astrologically, we're going to take a look at the planet. He say that we measure time by cycle ages. All right, so now we're talking about cycles and numbers and numeric, relationships between things. So we're going to take a look at this because this is what more scientists do. All right. So now astrologically, the sister just said, we are in a specific universal season right now. Okay. We're in a universal season. Now, why is this important? Because Men are seeds, right?
Mhm.
Now, you ain't gonna just go out there in the middle of the winter and try to plant some seeds and think you're gonna have a good harvest. It's too cold. You understand me? This ain't the time to be planting nothing.
Yes, sir.
But when the time comes to plant something, you want to make sure you be on time with time, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's why it's important. It's just that simple. That's why it's important. So, all right, so we in six, and six is what? What you say?
Cipher. This is Heru. That's
This
the
is Haru.
sixth Netaru.
The sixth Netaru, Haru.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell the people when we say Haru, because Haru has many names, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our Commission ancestors called him Haru, but what did the Greeks call him?
What did the Greeks call it?
Horus.
Horus. Oh,
Horus. That's
the.
right. That's right. What did the Roman Catholics call him?
Jesus.
Jesus. Jesus. And the Prophet Muhammad called him Isa.
Mm-hmm.
We still talking about the same persona. The Indians called him Krishna.
Get to the God. The God is the Trinity of Kabir. You have to go through the sun. You have to get to the heart. And that's why, like, in a lot of the religions, and when you take oaths, they be like, do you allow this into your heart? You know, they ask you that first. And that's something you have to agree to before you even, like, join anybody's anything.
Hold up. Now, that was a curveball. I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see that one coming, because the truth is man is not allowed to lie. Man is not allowed to lie. That don't mean that man don't lie,
Mm-hmm.
but man is not allowed to lie. So when we say that we gonna do a thing and then we don't do it, there's a consequence. That's a consequence for that. So when individuals, give these commitments, right, to these organizations or whatever it is they taking an oath to, or in the more scientific method, we don't take oaths, but that our yes, yes, and no's be no's, but they got to be yeses and they got to be no's. Because if not, then we know a lot. We receive our reward from Allah for our unjust deeds. You understand what I'm saying? So that was when you just said that. I didn't see that one coming. But that's something that I don't feel that we teach enough. No, we do not teach our people enough about the consequences of their action, nor do we teach them enough about the consequences of their inaction. All right. So it's 6. So I'm a Gemini. Right? This is my time, right? This is my time. What if I sit back and let my time pass? And then I waited until December. I waited until December.
It's funny you say December because December is like your square. So like something else about astrology. Astrology has always been used to tell time. And so like how we have a collective clock on what the earth is, and we go out and do agriculture and we all have our own personal internal clock. And so that's when the personal astrology in connection with the collective astrology comes into play. So your personal clock, where your personal sun is, would be square that December sun in Sagittarius. So it could flow your way. It's, if you move in awareness of, air, makes fire bigger. Sagittarius is Jupiter energy that rolls over the sacral chakra. So like, being mindful of, overdoing it, overindulging in things and, of that nature. Some people don't.
Oh, so you mean to tell me so I can get out in December too? So December, okay. So so all right, bet. I'm glad you said that. Okay. So where do I take a vacation?
That's another thing. You can get into astrocartography. So just like, you have everybody has their satellite, like if you will, like if you look at how like an atom is set up with the electrons. So you got your personal one, we got a collective one, you have one over the map, there's a snapshot of where the planets were across the map as we know it, and what kind of electromagnetic field the planets were given off in certain parts of the earth. And so when you go there, your electromagnetic field will interact with that one and give you a certain kind of experience. And the thing about what learning this is, you can go with the flow with it. You have the awareness, you say, okay, like me personally, I'm about to go into my Jupiter return. So I kind of want to go to my Jupiter line and have that Jupiter experience. My Jupiter is in Leo energy. So I like being on stage. I like performing. I like creating. I want to use that for a little bit, see where it takes me. So I'll go to that part on the map and have those kind of experiences. So you can choose a flow with it and be in control of it. You can, when I do the daily mathematics, because I know some people get sucked into the horoscopes and be like, oh, well, this happened because I'm like this or whatever, and use it as a crutch. But when I present it as a way of like, this is awareness and this is what to prepare your energy for, because this is the energy that's going to be going on around you. And so that gives people this aha, like, oh, that's why this happened, or that's why that was coming to me, or this, such was the test. It kind of helps with that. So, that's how you could utilize all this, I guess, like it's crazy because when I think about it, I see it connected in so many different ways, like connecting your Sephiroths. If you look at your Tippereth, the one in the middle, that's the Sephiroth that's connected to all of them. All of them are connected to that one. So like you can do anything through your heart. You can connect to whatever. If I want to help my lungs in some way, I could do something with my heart. If I want to help, because your body is like a personification of those energies. So, I think about it that way. I think about it like chemical equations. I could think about it as like atoms coming together. I could think about it in an astrology way. Like, okay, your Gemini energy when you're, in Sagittarius, or Virgo energy is, I mean, not Virgo. No. Yeah, it's Sagittarius energy, or because you're a 6. So what's 3?
That's 3. 3 is Tahuti. No, 3 is it's Secure.
Oh, Pisces. Pisces energy is also your square. So that's where you can get difficulties at, where you're at. And then Virgo energy is your opposition. So you might have a fun time there. So
Wait a
that's
minute. How do you have a fun time in opposition?
because it's like it's how you use it. Like, because it's like a straight line. So you're just moving linear. Like I'm moving from point A to point B. It gets no easier than that.
So, okay.
But if you're trying to move in a 90-degree angle, you gotta go straight, and then you gotta wait till it's your turn to make that turn, or that 90-degree angle comes into like a decision making. There's a crossroad there. So that's why like those other 2 energies that's in your square could be difficult.
Wow. That's dope.
Say like it's different ways I could explain it in my head. So sometimes it be going real fast, but it depends on what language you want to use.
When you say what language you want to use, what you mean by that?
I can use astrology, or I could sit with you and give you the psychology theories. I could tell you what phase of your life you're stuck in, or I could tell you what chakra you got blocked, or I could tell you what planet you're not paying attention to, what zodiac might be causing that kind of energy based upon where you are in your astrocartography chart, or where you are in your pinnacles in numerology. So it's like whatever language you want me to use, I could use whatever language and give you the same answer and give you the same call to action.
So so now when someone sits down with you and they say, hey, Sunshine, when they help me, something is going on in my life, I don't understand, I don't really know what's happening. Then how do you determine what language to use? Like tell me that.
I'm usually determined by like, I usually have a consult before I even have an appointment. I book a consult with them. I get to know them, the energy, where they're at. I ask them different questions about, their experiences, what they're focused on, what made them come to me out of all people to begin with. And as I'm listening to their responses, I'm paying attention to their body language and, different things like that. I'm sensing like, okay, this is, the kind of energy this person responds to. This is what'll trigger them, this, that, and the third. I do have an educational background in psychology, so I do have experience in behavioral therapy and behavioral coaching and planning. And so I've always naturally been a people watcher, but that just helped me like with the note taking on the people watching while I'm doing it. So I do, you know, like I said, I align all my knowledge on all the sciences together into one when you're getting like a session for me or sitting in one of my lives.
So and more, I don't think that it'd be much different from the way you communicate with different students or different people who you come into contact with after a lecture or whatever. When so you say something and it has an impact. Somebody walks up to you and be like, "Hey, I'm such and such a so and so, and I never knew this, and that explains such and such a so and so." And then you go further into the conversation. But I'm pretty sure that depending on that person and the energy that they give to you, would determine like what how do I engage them in this talk.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Um,
I know one thing because just being Grand Sheik is the same thing. Everyone's different.
mhm.
All the members are different. And everybody's going through different stuff, and I don't know that I can really say that I am 100%. I can't 100% tell you how I know. All I know is I just be receptive to where the answers come from. And when people, present me with, an answer, or they turn to me for what I owe them a responsibility for, then I rely upon me being receptive to the source of the answers, and their energy must communicate that to me some type of way, but I really can't explain it. I'll never forget. Well, I'm gonna tell y'all something. I'll never forget. This was in like 2007. I was in prison. Remember what day of the week? It probably had to be like a Saturday. Saturday. So because it was like, yeah, it was the day after Holy Day. And I was on the rec yard and I had some boys out there. The new members was all out there and I was going over some we had IP in preparation. Like they don't really do in preparation out here. But inside, coming to the Moorish Science Temple of America, you couldn't just join the Moorish Science Temple of America and then walk around not knowing the doctrine. We had in preparation. There's, you learn your 101s, you learn the law, you memorize certain passages in the Quran. That's just what it is. So I was going over that process with some new members, and a brother named Hargrave Bay. Hargrave Bay walked up to me, and he had brought the brother to a Friday Holy Day meeting the night before, and the brother name was Will. So he bring the brother to me, and he say, "Hey, Sheik," he say, my man got some questions that I can't answer. I told him I'll bring it to you so you can answer these questions for him." So automatically, I thought he was going to ask me about, something I said at the meeting or something he heard from somebody else when he came to the meeting. So we go to walk. I tell one of the other brothers that was there, "Hey, keep, instructing this class. I'm going to walk around the yard." So I go to walk around the yard and I say, the brother introduced himself to me, say, "My name is Willie." And he like, "Man, I just did 16 years. I went home and I'm back now. I got a life sentence for first degree murder. What happened?" Hey, I'm like, how in the freak am I supposed to know? This was the first, this was my first thought. Oh yeah, I left that apart. He say, he was heavy into the church and he was really, really into, God and his Bible and stuff. And he went home and now he back. He got a life sentence for first degree murder. What happened? And my first thought was, how am I supposed to know? But then I started talking to him. And the first thing I told him was, don't blame the church. Don't blame the church. I said the difference between what you did in the church and what we do as Moorish scientists is we prepare for the real life that we have to live ahead of us. And that's what didn't happen. So even though you was in the church and you was studying the Bible, you wasn't actually sitting down playing that chess game that life is. Saying my opponent is going to make this move, the Lord self. What will be my response to that move? You didn't go through that process. So when you got home, you just wasn't prepared, bro. You know, that was something along the lines that I talked to the brother about. But like I said, it just came to me. And I'll never forget, you know, because he ended up joining the Moorish Science Temple of America. He's probably a grand sheik somewhere in prison right now, helping other brothers to prevent them from going through what he went through. And I'm just like, I went back to my cell that night and I asked myself and I asked Allah, what in the world made that man think that I could answer that question? And it goes back to that energy that we give. So what's today's date? Let's see. What's today's mathematics? Let me take a look at what's today's mathematics, sis?
Overall today at 8. I know that.
Build and destroy.
Mhm.
Build and destroy. How do we know if we building or destroying?
I guess you don't.
Got you. No, I think we have to know.
Sometimes it's like it happens at the same time, you know. No two things can sit in the same place at the same time. So it's like as something is growing, taking root, which you don't see. Like when you plant a seed, you don't keep digging it up to see if the roots is growing. So as something is taking root, the other plant, the thing that you can see, is like dying off, withering away.
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause you can, as you're destroying something down, you're building something new. As you're building something up, you're destroying what was. I wanted to actually ask Sister Sunshine Mauryell, with the system of knowledge that you have, how do you see this being implemented with the direction of, social upward mobility for our people? You know, that a lot of our people are dealing with certain traumas, dealing with certain things in their past, dealing with the life that they're living. So obviously, like, it would take a social, psychological healing approach to even get people into the mindset to even want to work with others. So, from your perspective, how do you see how that helps us move towards in that direction as a collective people?
Well, it's not for everybody, and I'm aware. It won't be for everybody. For some people, there will be somebody else with a different kind of style or approach. However, in my experience with my knowledge and how I conducted or implemented in my one-on-one sessions or my readings or my courses, I have people who come to me with their responses on how empowered they feel, having this sense of awareness of how their day is going instead of this why me, why this kind of energy. They're like, oh, this is going on and that's going on. Let me prepare for this. Let me prepare for that. Or I get it, I have people, I'm big on words. And when it comes to like the word trauma, I don't, I'm not trying to like invalidate anybody's experiences or the severity of it. However, utilizing that word trauma now has like a certain kind of emotional, pull. And like I was telling y'all before, to get to the God, to get to the mind, you got to go through the self, pull on your feelings. So it's very intentional that certain words, if I are like trigger words or clickbait words or whatever, I want to pull at your feelings. So when I say the word, traumatic experience versus like a challenging experience, like that makes you think different of how you're choosing to absorb. So if, we can label a different kind of experience, and like somebody come to me, all right, we're going to work on your root chakra. This is, usually what you do, especially in the nether roots, we want to get to the root of the cause. What's the first time you felt this way? Well, I'm going to ask you questions around it. You know what I'm saying? This is when we get to your basic level of needs, your sense of authority. Who do you give authority to? What is their opinion on what you're doing? How are you acting that out? This, that, and the third. And I could tell you from that whether your root chakra is blocked or unblocked, right? The root chakra is ruled by Saturn. This is your sense of understanding. So we're going to go to your Saturn placement on your astrology chart. Your Saturn, like being transparent, my Saturn's in Capricorn. I experienced different situations in my childhood because mine is in my fifth house that were very challenging. Different situations. So like, I would say like, okay, if you're still carrying it this way, this is where the black root chakra is coming from, just that and the third. Having that sense of realization and being able to like, okay, I know I can eat these kind of foods now because we know what kind of foods to eat for the root chakra. I can listen to these kind of frequencies now because I know what the frequencies to listen to for my root chakra. I know what colors to wear, what colors to be around, what different affirmations to say, what to imagine when I'm taking my deep breaths during meditation, what kind of prayers to give. I know these different things now because I know, what's going on. That helps with prevention. It helps with, dealing with your quote unquote traumas that you have already dealt with. And it also prepares you because, there's traumas on the way. Like things are gonna happen and it's gonna be things that you have to learn how to heal from. And that sense of empowerment and self-awareness definitely helps you. And it helps you realize how much your chakras or your nether roots or sephiros, however we want to look at them, really affects the reality and how you're interacting into the reality outside of yourself. You're really in charge of how you choose to internalize what's going on and how you choose to project and absorb. So I think I answered your question. My bad, I was a little winded, but a lot of people have come back to me and told me, how much I've, helped empower them, and they're talking to relatives and having better conversations because now they know how to structure their sentences. Because it's now like, what chakra am I speaking to when I'm trying to have this conversation with this person? Okay, so these are the words that I should use. This is how I should, structure my senses. Like if I'm speaking to somebody that hurt my sacral chakra, I'm gonna be like, I feel, I feel, I feel. If you're, in your root chakra, I am. So different things like that. It's definitely been helpful.
So thank you for sharing that.
So, so I went to school for psychology for a little while, and because spending so much time locked up, I realized that it was just really like a lot of trauma that a lot of people didn't deal with, that they were trying to cope with and using the wrong coping mechanisms that led them to prison. So the things that you're saying, just giving people that type of the information that they can actually use to help see life through a different lens than just it's just trying to jump on me. Everyday life is life and it's beating me up, and God is not trying to let off of it. I think that when we look at the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that it really speaks to our psyche when it says that perfected man must pass through all the ways of life. And so a carnal was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshy things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. It kind of gives us an explanation as to why we are going through the things that we go through.
Yes, sir.
It affirms that we are going through these things so that we can be the strength of Allah made manifest. I can't tell you how many times that I have had to just tell a person when they were hurt and going through something and didn't know why. And they just said, why me? And I would tell them, so that you can be made stronger. You're going to be all right. And we're going to come out of this a lot better and stronger than you came into it. And without a doubt or a contradiction, they wake up tomorrow and they wake up one day and they have found their way through this and they realize that I wasn't just talking. You understand what I'm saying? So it's definitely, I could definitely see how it works. I know how it works for me. I know how it works for me. So today's mathematics. 6, today is the 20, what? The 29th?
29, 209. Start off with mastery.
29. So what's that? Quality, wisdom, born?
Mm-hmm.
Quality, wisdom, born, right?
Yep.
Quality, wisdom, born. Man, equality, wisdom, born in this era. Like I'm listening, I'm hearing it, equality, wisdom, born, but then I'm realizing that I listen to the news. I listen to the news. So I'm challenged now to try to see how today is equality, wisdom, born when I listen to the news today, and I see how different nations are bullying up on other nations and how people are right now are not equal and they suffering. So how do we explain, like, so if I'm sitting down and I'm talking to a person and I say today is equality, wisdom, born, and then they look at me and they like, well, I don't know about that. How do we explain that today is equality, wisdom, born in the era of a time like this?
You reap what you sow. So you gotta sow like you're gonna reap it. We see the things that's going on, but we can only imagine what each individual experience is. Like I could be fighting a war. I could be somebody that's out there, contributing to the violence. And then I could be going home to something crazy. I could have had like a crazy childhood. I could have been abused. I could have been brought into this and, mentally manipulated into this. I could be, I came here, to get out of something or whatever. Like we don't know how people are reaping and sowing these individual experiences. We just the big picture does matter. It's not okay. It's just, and then it's also like you said before, when we look above, like we have these stars and everybody's serving their purpose. The sun gonna rise and fall, the moon gonna do a cycle, the planets gonna do those cycles, and down here we got like all this chaos and everybody not knowing their place. And then in the same breath, still kind of do. You got like this organized chaos situation. Like there's a yin and yang. So there has to be, like in science, there has to be a shadow if there's going to be a light. And the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Like using a white light versus using a yellow light gives you two totally different shadows. And so we think about it in that realm of things too. Like if we want like these, like we want to have this mindset that there's these people here that just do no wrong and they're so great and righteous, and or people that kind of do wrong, and even though they kind of do wrong, they still hurry up and repent, or they try to undo or whatever. We keep in mind that there's an equal opposite energy somewhere.
So our ancestors in Quebec, they demonstrated Mayat. We know that we see the Prophet Noble Ali with the feather, with his turret, the feather of Mayat. But the opposite of Mayat is Isfet, or chaos. Right? So there's always the opposite. What is the purpose of opposites when we talk about these natures? Like the Quran, it says that since perfected man must pass through all the ways of life, a nature was full manifest. A nature that's a corner was full manifest, a nature that's framed forth from fleshy things. So now the man is divine, he is a spirit, he's a part of Allah. But from fleshy things, a corner was full manifest, like a opposite. So like, what purpose does these dualities serve?
It's cyclic. If you think about it, it's like when you go and sightsee, like I look at the jungle, it's beautiful, right? As beautiful that as this is mad stuff in there fighting for their lives. They're eating each other. So it's still chaos in there, but it's beautiful to look at. The animals are pretty looking, but they're poisonous.
Shows you the all. It shows you the all as well. Like you said earlier, perfected man must pass through all the ways of life. How could we ever experience Allah's mercy if we don't do anything wrong? How could we ever experience, like, let's say, justice cannot be committed without wrong? So our perspective of what perfection is as humans is flawed because the human perspective of perfection limits God.
Ooh.
So with that in mind, everything is perfectly the way it is now. You know, the higher self, the lower self, the harm, the harmony, it's all there to really show the beauty of oneness. The same tears that you cry can be of misery or of joy. The same sun that melts the wax hardens the clay. Same, which is the same soul that will of contraries, right? We got a soul that is of all knowledge, but guard her, for she is rash. Teach us, you know, again, the absolute oneness of everything. Falsehood is a manifest of right, right? So in all the worlds, there are two things. So that means that falsehood is, you know, it's a part of truth for us to gain deeper understanding of truth, because it's forever. As a man unfolds, as God unfolds. Allah has ordained for us getting to know ourselves and us to getting to know him is to come in a process of unfoldment, because those experiences become embedded in the heart. Those experiences become the pegs on the ladder of salvation, reaching from our heart to Allah's heart. So you know, it gives us the insight of what the universal mind is. That's why a lot of people, it's the reason why we don't come remembering all of our powers and everything is because we would never really understand how to wield it without that training. If Allah held back the veil, held back the fetters, and gave everybody the full power, how many people would go around murdering and killing, all for the fact that they have this misconception of how to use power? So it is upon us to now learn and sit through all of these halls of learning, going back full circle to the start of the conversation, for us to pass through all the ways, for us to become well-rounded in our understanding, which is the gnosis of the knot and the art. The things that cannot pass away and the things that does.
You know, wow. Hey, so Tai Chi,
Yes, sir.
martial arts, boxing, martial arts, either way it go. Like, you know when we find out how important it is to learn defense? When we get hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
Until you get hit hard, then you know defense ain't all that important. But when you get the crap knocked out of you, then you understand how important it is to defend yourself.
Yes, sir.
Understand me? Otherwise, it's just all offense. You know, I'm supposed to be striking. You know, and life is the same way.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
I can tell. I know. For me personally, you know, I say it all the time. I didn't just, one day while I was chilling and everything was all cool, say, hey, I'm gonna go visit the Moorish Science Temple of America. It didn't happen like that. I got life chased my butt into the temple. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, I was like, I ain't nowhere else to go. You understand me? Like Elijah, remember when Elijah was running from Jezebel? I was like Elijah running from Jezebel. I'm like, hey, listen, I gotta go somewhere. Because I ain't got, but I think I got about this many chances left. And that's, to me, that's what it is. So like when we say, well, what is the purpose of the duality? It's in the Quran tells us, though, it said that this carnal nature sprang forth that we might be the strength of Allah made manifest. So it's just like you said, Mo, it's just like you said, we have to have these experiences. I know this, like, can any of us say that we are all what we learned in the Moorish Science Temple of America?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I am just as much of what I learned out there in the streets, running around trying my best to get myself killed. I am just as much today what I learned doing that, because now I know how to support my brothers and sisters in need. Now I know better how to avoid the perils of the lower self. Like, you know what? If I succumb to that type of thinking, yeah, just hey, I hate to even think about it. I hate to even think about what might happen. Man, stop. All right, man, stop it. So, yeah, Moors. What do y'all think? Let me see. What do y'all think about? What do y'all think about? Uh, I'm just gonna ask the question. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you where it started. So, when I was a young person first joined the temple, like I said, I would go and visit all the different religions. I went to church. I went to the Wicca class. I went to the Voodoo class. I went to the Hebrew Israelite class. I went to the Buddhist class. I went everywhere. I was a member of the Nation of Islam study guide, and I was in the Cipher too. And the elder Moors used to tell me, you all over the place. You're going to end up being the space cadet. Why you, that's literally like, that's what they say. You're going to end up being the space cadet. You all over the place.
That's the goal. I'm trying to end up in Antarctica.
Hey,
See what's beyond the ice wall.
you understand me? But those Moors, they felt like we should restrict to the temple and just be in the temple and not go out and in search of what all had been scattered while we were scattered as a people. We are a scattered people. We didn't just get scattered physically, but all of our records have been scattered as well. All of the research and the knowledge, the wisdom and understanding that our people collected, for the eons that we existed, was scattered just like we was. So if we don't go out and to put these things together, what then? So I'm like, what do you think about our young people right now who are in search of truth? How do we give it to them? Like, how do we, I'm keep on, how do I give it to them? Like, I want to help them, So what do you believe my approach should be?
It has to be in alignment with a need or a desire that they have. And for a lot of kids, money is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can teach them a trade, teach them how to make money. You know what I'm saying? Something involving that to bring them in and, have that ability to like intertwine, the science information and like while I'm teaching you this, you know what I'm saying? Um, different ways to carry yourself, how to communicate yourself. Um, getting people into that mindset of the paperwork that you carry on yourself. You know, there's options. It's not just a one-way route.
What do you mean
Of
by
that
that?
nature. But yeah, I would do that, like teaching them how to make some money or giving them like a place where they can relax and have fun without it being like a, oh my gosh, there's teenagers, they must be doing something kind of energy that they get from their community usually. Those two things would be like, my avenues too connected to them.
You said about the paperwork they carry. What you mean by that?
I know that some spaces, you have your different IDs. You have like your Moorish ID. You have once you get into like how to communicate yourself, like if you get pulled over as, a state national or, however way you want to declare your nationality outside of being a US citizen. Um, I know that there's some different Moors faction symbols that focus on that as well.
So, so that's something else that's new to me. Um, I never, of course you had Moors, where you had individuals, you had Asiatics who were into different sovereignties and stuff like that. I was into that myself, real heavy. I really got into it, as looking for a route to get out of prison. Somebody told me, "Hey, you can get out of prison like this," so I dove right in, trying to get out of prison. But I never really experienced it as, somebody to say, "Hey, well, this is what Moors do." My first experience with that was I came across a pamphlet. Uh, it was a brother that was in prison with me. He had sent Taj Tariq Bey like $1,200. Taj Tariq Bey sent him a package that was supposed to help him get out of prison. The brother probably still in prison. This was like years and years ago. But he got this package, and he had one of the pamphlets in there was degrees of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I remember opening the package, and I was like, ah, I don't think that's square with what we demonstrated. That was the pretty much the end of me seeing how it was something that was connected to us as the Moorish Science Temple of America. And then I got a cell phone in 2018 while I was in prison. I got a cell phone, and I made a Facebook page, and I was like, wow, it's a whole lot of eels and bays out there. Like, man, it was so many eels and bays. And I'm like, man, so I just started getting all these friends, and I was posting so much before I got out of prison, y'all. Okay, my first time ever seeing the internet was in 2018. I came home in 2024. I went in 2003. Before I got out of prison, I had over 14,000 posts about Moorish science on the various social media platforms. Over 14,000 of them. Hold on, I just opened that this comment. I'm gonna let that sit right there for a second. So, long story short, I'm in the institution, so we had Holy Day. I come back from Holy Day, and I make a post and I say Happy Holy Day, and the Holy Day meeting was a good meeting today. And the sister inboxed me and she say Pennington Bey, you went to the temple today? And I was like, yeah, didn't everybody go to did you go to the temple today? And she was like, so you a temple Moor? I was like, what is a temple Moor? Like, I never heard of that before. I was like, what is a temple Moor? So that was my first time ever realizing that you had people, who say they Moorish Americans, but they aren't members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Like, I didn't know that was a such thing as that. Okay, so this most Sheik Rasuli Bey, he says, Islam respectfully, you need a teacher that can trans his teachers directly back to the Prophet. What y'all think about that?
Like you meant to say trace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you want to say choice too. Okay, but what you think about that?
Well, I'll go with the words of the Prophet that, you know, the movement will not reach the height of where it's supposed to be without him being the head. Simple as that. Yeah, keep the Prophet out front and all that we do.
So, you want to add to that, sis?
It makes sense. You want to go back to the Prophet if you like, you know, if I want a reputable person teaching me, you know.
The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America is the divine instructions from the Holy Prophet. It says, the teacher treads the way and leaves his footprints clearly cut, which all can see, and be assured that he, their master, went that way. That's what the Quran says. So the issue that I have with this is that in the Moorish Science Temple of America today, there's a multitude of brothers and sisters, a whole lot of them. And what they like to say is something I don't share. I rarely share. I ain't gonna say I don't, but I rarely share, you know, the record about who I came up under. I rarely share because you could tell a tree by the fruit it bears.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A lot of people like to point to the tree and say, man, look at the tree that I came from. No, I'm looking at you. I'm seeing you cussing. I'm seeing you fussing. I'm seeing you acting unbecoming of a Moorish American Muslim. But you say because Sheik such a so and so who was made a Sheik by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, that excuses the fact that I don't have a Moorish bone in my body. And I'm gonna tell you, shut the freak up and get the freak away from me. Because the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, protect the Prophet and the temple. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, do nothing to prejudice the mind of the public against this divine movement. So just if Sheik such a so and so who was made Sheik by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali made you a Sheik and your character is unbecoming, then they made a mistake. Simple as that. This ain't what that is. This paradigm shift in the podcast. We don't demonstrate Ethiopian degrees here. All right? Ain't no segregation in this divine movement. Period, point blank. So we ain't going to talk about the countless members who sat with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali who taught us. The countless members. We ain't going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what we're here to talk about. Islam. Yeah. Goofy. So that's how you know when it's time to build and when it's time to destroy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, sometimes it's just time to destroy. Yeah, sometimes it's time to build. Islam. All right, Morris. I appreciate y'all for coming. I will be reaching out to y'all in the future, you know, to come and demonstrate on various topics. You can reach out to me anytime you want to, you know, and we can build, you know, together we stand, divided we fall. Simple as that.
Yes, sir.
You know, one thing about the thing is like minds come together. Y'all see a part of Allah, and to us, that's all of Allah. since we've been had that communicated to us, then we should know that the part we see is not all of Allah. Ain't that what you said? Ain't that what you demonstrated, sis, about us being made aware?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So since we know, we've been instructed that we only see a part of Allah. So we know that the part we see is not all of Allah. So I would love to have your portion. I would love to have your portion. I want to expand my own portion. All right. All is well.
Yeah. What's the direct question? Or
I ain't asked no question. No question. I just said I would love to have your portion. I would love to have your portion. I will be calling on y'all for in the future to come demonstrate on the podcast. And if you call me, come demonstrate on anything, I'm gonna be there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Definitely.
Definitely. My sister, nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes, I'll definitely. You on Instagram, right?
Yes.
Sunshine Mauryell.
Yep.
All right, I'll definitely.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Be on TikTok. You do the what's the name? It's a certain time that you do the today's mathematics.
It depends on how my schedule is going. At one point in time, it was in my schedule to do it like super early in the morning. Now it's kind of like a wing it type of thing, but it's every day.
So every day. That's right. All right, I think this is the part where I probably should have said it way in the beginning, but I supposed to tell you to like it, to share it, to subscribe to it, but I'll be forgetting about that, y'all. I'll be forgetting about that, but I think that's important. I had the little brother told me, you gotta get a command prompt. You gotta tell the people to like it and share it, subscribe to it, because they don't be knowing that they supposed to do that. So like it, share, subscribe to it, and that's it. Y'all know. Peace and love.
All right. Now that goes against everything that you've been taught your whole life. Everything you've been taught your whole life. You've been taught that you think with your mind. But in the Quran, it talks about what the mind does. Think about some of the things the Quran says about the mind. Jesus said, let us forget the body. He said, let us forget the flesh and go with mind. And go with mind. So therefore, he is identifying that the mind is a vehicle that we could use to transcend boundaries, that we could use to transcend time and space. So when the Prophet Muhammad, he talked about going from Mecca to Jerusalem and back to Mecca in one night, the night's journey. How did he travel? He said he traveled on an animal called Barak, and this animal in one stride, he moves as far as his eyes could see at the speed of thought. At the speed of thought, he was traveling with the mind. You understand what I'm saying? What else did he say about the mind? He said these tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind. So he's telling us that there is a workshop in the mind. And he's saying where we build up thought. He said where things are made of thought and where we build up character. Now he's telling us what we're supposed to be doing in the workshop, but that's not what you have to do because your mind is yours. You can change it when you want to.